Hi, Greg. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I think you're the first osteopath I've had on the show.
Yeah, there's not, especially in Canada, there's not a lot of us that standpoint, and even the US, obviously there's a different side of things. Europe, it's obviously significantly bigger, but yeah, it's osteopaths live in this little bit of bubble of mystery
Right.
with what they do, and so they don't, like I said, to be out in the open too much. But I'm
Yeah.
excited, obviously, to get the word out about osteopathy and kind of everything that we're doing.
Yeah. Well, here we are, two mysterious people. This reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watched, I think it was a Simpsons episode. And there was this one scene, it would just like super cracks me up, where somebody was an osteopath. And then they got asked the question, well, what is an osteopath? What do you do? And it's like this long form explanation, because we can't just say, well, I treat the human body, or I'm a healer, because as we know, the role of the artery is absolute. And then the body has this auto mechanism where it heals itself essentially. And so it's this long, drawn out explanation of how the whole body is interrelated. And, your eyeball is connected to your toenail through fascia and all these things in communication. And so if you were to boil down for somebody who's not familiar with what osteopathy is, Greg, what would that definition be for you?
Oh man, throw me into that now. It is again, it's one of those things. It's a lot into interpretation and what people uh, are, and to me, it's I always say it's kind of like from a manual therapy perspective, it's the most complete form of manual therapy that's out there.
Right.
We address more than just bones, because that's when most things here, but like with osteo, it's bones, right?
Right.
And it's oh yeah, it's a part of it. But you look at the definition of the word osteum is it's more of tissue, living tissue, living things. So we deal with that and all the holistic nature. I think it's probably, again, when you talk about all the mechanisms of health that are out there, kind of the big pictures when it comes to biological, psychological, and social. I think we're the ones that most equipped to have the tools to kind of address the whole being.
Right. Yeah, agreed. And that's the thing, is when there is a person that is on my table, it's not their body. They're not here to see me for their shoulder. First, yes, they're maybe there to see me for their shoulder, but what's happening in the sacrum, because there's a massive connection between the hips and pelvis, and then of course the shoulder. But it's also, again, still not the body. It is the person's emotions. It is the person's traumas and past experiences. It is how the person relates to their environment. And we talk about the biopsychosocial influence of what's happening in that person. And of course, it's the person's spirit. So all of this is going on. And so when I get asked, well, how do you treat this is going on? Oh, it's on so many levels. And then we also work on the physical level. And then we also work on the liquid level. And then we also work on the energetic level. And so to your point, it is a complete global treatment, manual treatment, where you're addressing the whole person, taking them out of even the experience or the situation inside that office and really relating it to the rest of their lives. And that's what I love the most about it. And I found my spiritual side through osteopathy. And I remember just going through school, and that was the first time I actually connected with spirit and understood what that was. And that's where I really became so deeply spiritual, was when I had this radical experience that was completely unexplained, which I do want to share with you in just a moment. But I'm so honored to be having a fellow osteo as well on the show today, because I think there's a lot we're going to uncover as well together.
Yeah, and it's the way to to educate clients as they come through is pain can be there for many different reasons. So we've all seen the charts of like how they're there. And to me, that's the outcome of something, right? There's a disruption of some sort. It could be biomechanical, it could be spiritual, it could be any of these areas. And it's about finding them, like what are the impacts of this? What layers that are under this pain or this fatigue or this discomfort, and how do we be able to address all those? And so it's definitely a powerful way to kind of get a deeper discussion too with your clients. I think that's been a big thing for me, is opening that conversation around the sides of pain and sides of dis-ease that we see in people, that to approach that holistic type of care that we need to do.
Yeah, I love that. And what's cool too about what you do, okay, which I actually, this is gonna be so brand new for me, and I'm super excited to learn from you. And I wanted to be so careful when we met before we started recording that I wouldn't get too much information because I'm a nerd like that. But you also do HRV. So this is another layer of treatment and approach that you take, which I'm so curious about. So I think maybe before we dive into that, let's just talk about what that means, because I wanted to share with you before we started that I just started tracking my sleep with my watch. I would normally take off my Garmin at night,
Yep.
and it gives me all this information about HRV, and it tells me whether I'm recovered, how well I slept. And so I have to be honest, I'm not 100% certain how everything is interlinked and related. So excited to get this party started.
Yeah, so I'll kind of define HRV, kind of go into a little bit what factors are incorporated into it, as well as to why I find the value of measuring it. So when people hear heart rate variability, they think of heart rate, think of 60 beats per minute, 90 beats per minute, and that's a part of it. But what's actually significantly more important is actually the frequency of which those beats occur, right? So you and I can have a resting heart rate of 60 beats per minute, right? We see our watches, this is 60, nighttime average 60 beats per minute. My heart rate beats like a metronome, right? During that average, right? Very consistent on the second, every second. Yours varies. It goes up and down, a nice fluctuating type of pattern. What research shows is that we know that you are in a happier, healthier state than I am, which is very counterintuitive to what we think. We think of health as being homeostasis, our ability to, be able to maintain a stable environment. So it's very counterintuitive, but we know now through a bunch of literature, starting from the 50s all the way to now, that with our heart rate variability, it's actually the opposite. We want more variability in our heart rate. So why that is that it's a measure of our ability to have stress resilience, our ability to I call it the homeostatic capacity. It's our homeostatic capacity, our ability to maintain homeostasis. How much ability do we have to be able to maintain a stable internal environment? And so this is a measurement of, is our body under stress, or are we in our fight or flight response, or are we in our parasympathetic rest and digest? If we want to get really nerdy, it's an indirect measure of our vagal tone, our vagus nerve, which is our main controller of our parasympathetic nervous system. So the higher vagal tone we have, the body means that we're in this parasympathetic state, a rest and digest state, which is, when we measure HRV primarily right now, which is during nocturnal, we want a lot of variability during our sleep, because that's the time that we want to be able to regenerate and recover. And the saying in exercise physiology is, you can't overtrain, you can just under recover. And so the ability to be able to be into parasympathetic is a huge key, because we're surrounded by stress, and sometimes it's hard to be able to deal with it and be able to manage it, because there's so many factors, so many things that are out there. But it's okay if we can be able to recover from that. And that's the problem, is that we can't shift into this parasympathetic. We have enough sympathetic activation already there. Sometimes it's not modifiable, but our ability to shift into parasympathetic, to get into rest and digest when we need to be able to, is super critical and key. And that's where HRV comes in, to be able to measure that.
Wow, that was so good. That was so good. Super interesting, because I have this program, Make Peace with Food, where I help women overcome binge eating, emotional eating, out of control eating. And what we actually talk about the whole time, and the reason why we're actually driven to self-sabotage behavior, is because the majority of the time we are in sympathetic. And I call this protection mode, just to simplify it, but that's exactly what the body's doing. It's trying to protect itself. What is it doing? It's driving me to eat. Why? Because food equals safety. Why is that? Well, because when there is a true scarcity in the environment, the body's going to do something about it. So it's going to slow down the metabolism. It's going to hold on to stored energy. It's going to make sure it drives me to eat more and to move less. And so this is super interesting and so in line with that concept. And then I just want to just maybe come back to what you said about the variability, and in terms of how that is a measurement of health, or that is a measurement of being able to overcome stress. So I know that, for example, when we measure a person's cardiovascular output, so how good their cardio is, not only do we measure how the heart rate is able to climb, but what we also measure is how well it is able to come back to rest and come back to normal. And that those two factors are a positive measure of cardiovascular health versus just how fast can your heart rate come up, right?
Yeah, so that's another marker, right? And that's mainly with our physical capacity to deal with stress, right? So that's in relation to our ability to deal under physical load. It doesn't necessarily measure our ability to manage emotional load, or isolation, or safety in that regard. So you start to look at the capacity to deal with stress. It's like, stress can come in many different forms. But so to me, it's like, what's our overall capacity? If we have good physical capacity, if we have good emotional capacity, if we have good social and spiritual capacity, our HRV will be high. It's that if one of those things is not in an ideal state, or we're suffering in a specific area, HRV will be able to detect that, because it looks at all of these areas. So there's a bunch of research around, the progression of different diseases, right? Heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all those people have them, demographically controlled, have lower heart rate variability. Same with people that have depression, anxiety, trauma. Not only that, we're starting to look at a lot of research now. You talk about addiction in many different areas of these things and these patterns of high stress environments, and how that's, indicative of going people into relapse if there's a high stress environment for that individual. We see that now with HRV monitoring, that we need to increase heart rate variability, which is allowing people to be in say, substance abuse in regards to sobriety. It's a critical aspect of understanding that whole mechanism. And you look at the social isolation, people that deemed to be isolated or have lack of social connection have lower heart rate variability, and people that have from a spiritual standpoint, which is an interesting one in that standpoint, because a lot of the research shows is that, to determine someone's spiritual health, it's almost like they kind of have to have that saying, yes, I'm a spiritual person or not, and be able to work on that side of things. But when people recognize as being a spiritual person, and when their purpose in life is diminished a significantly lot more, you start to see decreases in heart rate variability. So all those, and that's the complexity of HRVs, is a pick up yellow flags. I wouldn't say red flags like diagnostic, but warning signs. The difficulty is figuring out, okay, well, which one of these areas do we need to be able to dive into? Is it nutrition? Is it our emotions? That's the complexity where coaches like yourself, and as well as me, we dive in to start to understand that concept. All I'm trying to do is be able to quantify the change that we already know that occurs, to make it obvious objectively for our clients to say, hey, like, look how much we're actually improving.
Wow, that's so good. This is amazing. I love this conversation so much. My goodness. Okay, this is so important. This is so needed, because what I know, and the whole point of falling in love with fitness in general, is knowing that there's not this one way and it's the only way to do it. And a lot of people, Greg, are walking around with the what's wrong with me, right? Why can't I just this? Why is it so easy for that person to release weight, but I can't? Why is it so easy for that person to do this and I can't? Why do I keep trying things and it doesn't work? And so, if anything, I think this would be the message to take away today, is that it's not you. And it is your nervous system that is driving this. And so powerful that we're having this conversation. And now I'm curious in terms of how you link this use with osteopathy, because people don't generally walk into my office and I'll say, okay, well, show me your heart rate monitor. Let me, do you have an iWatch? Like, tell me, or your Garmin or Fitbit, tell me what your heart rate's been in the last 24 hours. So how do you tie in the two?
I mean, the biggest thing for me as a practitioner is I want to make as much impact for my client as possible. I may not have all the tools in the toolbox, but I have some, and I want to make sure that I'm actually making a meaningful difference.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that not only subjectively feeling better, but objectively we're on the right track as well. Both of those pieces of information are extremely valuable. Subjectively, people that are in acute pain relief, phenomenal, right? But I want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can from the whole person to making sure that pain stays away and goes away, and we are able to understand the mechanisms to what keeps that. And that where both of these pieces of information are extremely valuable. I want that feedback of saying, hey, we're on the right track. Maybe we're missing something. Because to me, from an osteopathic, as an osteopathic treatment, as an intervention, it definitely could provide some benefit. We get some pain relief and all that. Affects the nervous system phenomenally. But it may not work for everybody at this time, because they may not be ready or not the right time of their journey and all of this stuff. And I want that feedback, that I'm not just going down the wrong rabbit hole. Because if I really make, say, some underlying deep nervous system work with individuals where their physiology is starting to be able to come back online, we start to be able to see that. But they may have like, hey, I don't know how my body, like, we have a little bit of disconnect that maybe needs some time to be able to kind of go forward, to be able to look at those things. And I find this a lot with my post-concussion syndrome clients, people that have been suffering for maybe a year and a half, and it's like saying, hey, like, your HRV is very, very low. we're gonna do some treatments, get things up. It's like, hey, look, we're making some progress. Your nervous system comes back online. You know, the last couple of weeks it's been down here. We're now up here. Hey, we're making progress. And it's that feedback they need, because it's very much a roller coaster in regards to recovery. And to know that we're on the right track, that the downs aren't as down as they were before, right? And their highs are higher than they've been before. It's great feedback in that mechanism, which is phenomenal. And then vice versa, where we feel we're making some great progress in regards to getting people moving, feeling better, pain, but their HRV isn't changing, saying, hey, I want to look at you as a whole person. Maybe there's some areas about your nutrition or your emotional health or your trauma-based things that we need to be able to start to explore and understand as to why we're not making kind of bigger changes overall for you. It's great that we're getting back active and moving and feeling better, but from a big picture standpoint, our goal is to live long, healthy lives. And there's something that's holding you back. And I don't want you to fall back into this pattern of pain, and I want you to be able to progress and grow. So let's figure out, these areas, and we start to dive in, and whether that's a referral to a psychologist, clinical counselor, a health coach, a naturopath, a medical doctor, whatever necessary may be, to kind of work on the any aspects of the biopsychological social model that they need support in.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I just want to say you are incredible. You're amazing. This is so refreshing. What a badass, because you said something that is so powerful that I hope that anyone listening caught, which is, yeah, I don't know everything. I got some tools, but I don't know everything. Here I am talking to this super cool, very incredibly knowledgeable osteopath who still says, hey, I don't know it all. If you sign up with a practitioner, if you go see any healer or any health practitioner who claims to know it all, I'm going to say red flag right there, because I don't know it all. I've been in this business for 25 years, and I'm going to still say I don't know it all. Because if I say I don't know it all, that means I'm done learning, I'm done growing, I'm done expanding, I'm done trying to learn new things. And of course, science changes every single day. So what I knew 5 years ago is so different than what I've learned now, especially things around gut health or things around HRV, things around all of the stuff that we're studying and incorporating the tools that we're using to help and support our clients. And so that's a very, very beautiful thing. And that really says a lot about who you are and what you do. So congrats.
Yeah, again, like, because when I sat back, when I graduated from first my exercise physiology degree, where I thought exercise was the answer to everything,
Yes,
right?
right?
You leave school thinking, I got the tools to help anybody that comes my way. If they do this, I can do this. And then you started getting practice, you realize how small your skill set actually is
Yeah.
into that side of things. And in my head, I kind of go, well, okay, well, I'm an exercise, kinesiologist, that standpoint, personal trainer. Well, then how do psychologists get people better then if
Right.
they're in pain? How do physio and massage, like there's multiple mechanisms as to provide benefit. Like, is there a way for me to determine when massage or physio or clinical counseling or coaching needs to be intervened in a specific time more than me? And that's been kind of my goal, is be able to, and this is where HRV has been a great marker of saying, like, go to this person, and we start to see the impact it actually has on a continuous non-invasive basis, that they don't have to wait 6 months to get blood work or a scan done or whatever it may be. It's every day you get this feedback of what's going on to determine if you're making the right progress. So that was my biggest thing. Is it was very early on I had the realization that, again, when you graduate from school, you think you got it all, and hit me pretty hard early on of saying, I have a very limited skill set, and I need to know what I can deal with. And when things are not going the right direction with my thought processing or my interventions, and know when to be able to deviate and rely on a team of people, very much as we've accumulated in this clinic here with naturopaths and medical doctors and other osteopaths and physiotherapists, to work as a team to be able to help somebody intervene at the right time.
Oh, so good. I love that. Absolutely. Could not agree. And there's so many ways to approach this with so many different modalities. And that's what's really important, is just to understand that there are other ways to do this. And then also to be able to refer out, to be able to really even provide another perspective. So that's so important. And so how did you come across HRV anyway, Greg? How did you couple this work with osteopathy, of all things?
Yeah, so my master's thesis, when I was in Bloomsburg in 2011 now, I was looking at non-invasive ways of measuring heart function. Now, specifically, this was the clinical population, so we're dealing with people with like congestive heart failure, and how to measure them non-invasively, because you had to do catheters and Dopplers. And so there's all sorts of invasive stuff that was very uncomfortable for people to do and very risky.
Mhm.
So we're looking at non-invasive ways. So part of my research, I looked at all the non-invasive ways that we can measure heart function, and heart rate variability came up, and didn't end up in my paper. And the reason why is because we're looking at things you can be used during exercise. specifically, and there wasn't a lot of research or good research around HRV during exercise. So I went off, but I got introduced to it, and when I came back home, I'm hearing the kind of the triathletes and the marathon runners and the high level athletes starting to use heart rate variability as a tool for managing their training load.
Mhm.
And at that time, it was described as they'll let you know when today is a good day to train or not. Right. So that's where the understanding. So I'm like, oh, it's a performance metric of like, oh, am I fatigued? Am I not fatigued? Am I overtrained or undertrained? And so that's when I was like, oh, that's my first understanding. And when I started diving into the research, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff around disease and health around this stuff. It's not necessarily about performance at all. I'm like, well, what's the connection between this and that? And as I go through various things, and as I started to apply it a little bit more, it came back to the fact that it's about management of stress.
Mm.
And so how athletes use it in regards to training management is, what is their biggest stress?
Mhm.
It's managing their training load, because that's the most important, the most physically demanding thing that they're going through. That's kind of overarching everything else. But when you deal with regular human beings, it's not training management. It's about stress management. It's about a body under stress or not under stress. And so this is where, a lot of people are really interested in heart rate variability. As soon as I mention what this does, they go, oh my God, very excited about it all. But then it comes to the practicality. You get someone in front of you, their HRV score is low, and they go, well, how do I improve it? You need to know a lot about that person. You have to know about their exercise routines. You have to know about their nutritional teams, and you have to do a detailed analysis around those, their sleep patterns. You have to understand how they deal with stress. Do they have a lot of stress? Do they have past trauma? What are the relationships with their family and friends like? How do they perceive stress as they come in? Do you have good emotional regulation or poor? Do you have good interoception or bad? The mind-body connection, do we have that? Do you have a lot of agency or self-confidence to overcome tasks? All of these things come in regards to our nervous system. And so you got to be able to look at that. And so I have 10 of these factors that I look at that seem to impact heart rate variability. And I try to address each of those, ask questions, and dive down the rabbit hole a little bit about those to see kind of, if they do have low heart rate variability, or their health and well-being is not where they want to be able to be, where is the low-hanging fruit for this individual? And is that something that I can deal with, or is that something I need to be able to refer out to?
Right.
In regards to that. And I'd say if any practitioners listen to this and they're kind of relatively starting anew, and they're kind of saying, well, no, I just don't want to give a client away to somebody else. I can tell you right now, the amount of people that I get back referrals for having a referral to a great practitioner that deals with the right, that comes right back. I had someone that was like 8 years ago that I saw once, and I did some stuff and I referred out. To this day, she sends people to me. Right. And you're just trying to hold on to her and not have a good experience with me because we're kind of blah, blah. I would have lost that. It's about kind of making sure that the individual is taken care of and they feel taken care of and they feel heard.
Yes.
And you empower them with a lot of agency, a lot of self-confidence to be able to take on their problems. And that's by far the most impactful thing you can do for an individual.
Oh my goodness. So well said. So well said. And that's the thing is, right? I have somebody in my office who I feel maybe needs something else, maybe needs a new approach. Who do I care about? Me or the person, right? I mean, I'm a practitioner, so I should be focused on the person. It's not about my benefit, it's about what would benefit the practitioner the most. And what I also find super interesting when you do refer out, when you do give that person that place or that space to know that they're important, that you care about them, that you care about their health, and it's not just trying to keep this one client. The other thing that you're also doing is you're allowing yourself to serve more people. If I try to, I'm a private trainer and I want to hold on to these private clients, these 5 private clients forever. And I don't want them to leave. And I'm so connected and attached to them being my clients because I count on the income that I'm generating from them. What I'm actually also doing is limiting myself from being able to help thousands of other people. And so that's how I've always seen it. Like whoever I can help at the moment, actually my goal with whether somebody comes to see me for osteo or someone comes to see me for coaching is for me to make them autonomous. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to give them that power to really step inside themselves and pull that healing capacity out, or create the rituals and routines that would make them independent versus relying on me for workouts or for constantly taking away their pain. I actually want to empower them with that. So I love that you say that and that you mention that. And again, if anyone's looking for a practitioner, that's another red flag. They're trying to keep you versus referring you out. That's another thing you need to pay attention to.
and one of the things too, I'll never forget it. One of my teachers in osteo said this, and I mean, there's a few kind of people in our that were teaching there. They said we don't take new clients, like we don't take new clients, right? And a very predominant osteopathic practitioner goes, I never understood that.
Right.
Are you not getting people better? Like why?
Okay, that's so
Like
true.
why are they keep coming back? Like the whole goal is to be able to make sure that they don't come back,
Right.
right? You should always be able to see new clients,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like you're there in a place and time and intervene to be able to work on certain things and be able to progress them, make sure they don't, like, I have to put things back in or that type of stuff. And there's just be like, I need to see you every month for this and that. And it's
Right.
no, it's not the case. And very similar to what you said, it's that autonomy, it's that agency of the individuals. It's like the biggest thing you can do is you. Like I always say, like, I don't fix things.
Right. Yes.
It's not my job isn't to fix things. My job is to be able to facilitate the healing process. And then you go out and be able to create that change.
Absolutely. Oh, so powerful. So powerful. Yeah. Like if I look back now, I think the only exceptions of people who've been seeing me, let's say for osteo for over 5 years now, are triathletes that are spending 20, 25 hours a week training that need constant tune up. Like that's a different scenario, right? And we don't get
Completely.
many of those in general compared to, let's say, the general population. But yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
so well said. Yeah. Amazing. So I'm curious now, coming back to the HRV. Now we're measuring variability. So this is, if somebody's listening, because I actually want to talk about stress a little bit. We're talking about stress. And I also want to say that stress is not a negative thing. So stress is actually a very natural phenomenon. And it only becomes negative when it becomes chronic. So we have this beautiful part of our nervous system that allows us to survive, that allows us to be able to ensure survival and safety. However, it is supposed to be temporary because our natural default setting is that parasympathetic nervous state, which I refer to as safety mode, where your body feels safe, you're at ease in your environment. There are functions that are happening in the body that allow you to heal, that allow you to recover, that are optimizing gut health. And so there's a lot of beautiful things happening for you at that moment. However, whenever stress kicks in, it is a natural phenomenon. And again, one more time, that when it is prolonged and prolonged in a way where we don't even realize that we're under stress, where we've just been so adapted to this high stress level because of the stress in our life and the stress with our spouse and the stress with our kids and the stress and the added stress, and because our environment and our society says, congratulations, you're such a badass, you work so hard, you're so under stress, look at you. And so this is what's really important to pinpoint. And so for a person listening who, let's say, has no idea around HRV, does not own a smartwatch to let them know what's going on with their HRV, how could you determine whether or not a person is in that chronic fight or flight state? What would be some of those signs and symptoms, Greg?
Oh man, that's a very, very good question. And I think one of the biggest things is, I'm sure you're going to completely agree, is the fact, like, as it takes a lot of repetition and understanding and start talking to people, a lot of emotional intelligence to understand these type of things. One of the things that I say in a lot of my presentations, when the understanding of, okay, well, we know chronic stress can lead to illness and disease.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely know that, right? And so, but typically when we're under a lot of stress, right, you're in a fight or flight state this moment. You happen to be able to do what you're able to do to survive. You may not feel kind of these like little things in the moment. You may not be able to feel the pain or the anxiety, whatever. But that's like when you start realizing that you start having these symptomologies, whether it's excessive fatigue, whether it's starting to be able to get, oh man, I just, all the shoulder pain, I just get so tense all the time. Like I always say it's like we call it the autonomic dysfunction. There's the autonomic dysfunction symptoms, starting getting a little more anxious. Sleep becomes a little more of a problem, right? You're always kind of feeling behind or overwhelmed and that type of stuff. And I always like it's always funny to me when I hear the people that have these conditions that like come out of nowhere.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's just the fact that people were ignoring the warning signs until a major thing occurred. It's like they were knocking on the door the entire time before somebody had to kick it in.
Right.
Right. It's just like, yeah, it's like, well, he exercised and ate well. It's like, yeah, well, he didn't sleep. Right. He went out drinking a lot. Right. He may have been smoking. He's got, a tough relationship with his marriage. He never sees his kids that are on him all a specific time. He's got all this pressure from work in these different angles. He's got all these financial things. I don't think how much, food and exercise is going to do is actually going to outbalance that.
Right.
Right. And so the key is very much similar. Like stress is good, but too much stress is bad. Is like, what's that threshold?
Right.
What's that kind of that balancing act into that? And you got to make sure that you have that right balancing act. And the kind of the warning signs of some of those things, you start getting these things of people maybe noticing you're a little more anxious. You start to feel like a little more fatigue. You don't have that get up and go. You don't have that motivation or that drive to continuously get up and exercise or do these things, and the pattern starts to fall. I think your health behavior starts to be able to fall off
Right.
of that. So now I'm actually going to throw back at you because to me it's, I have the objective markers, which I try to, when I see high stress people, I bring them in and be able to show that to them, right? Because sometimes they may not be as obvious to them. But is there anything different or anything that you see in someone that starts to elicit this kind of sympathetically dominant type of response on a continuous basis?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you said sleep. Sleep is an important one. Noticing that you have interrupted sleep, or you sleep 8, 9, 10 hours, but you're exhausted. You never feel rested, no matter how much. You're having a hard time releasing weight. And you are, no matter what you're doing, even if you've got it all right, you've got the best trainer in the world, you're seeing them 5 times a week, you're trying to cut calories, you're noticing that it's just not working. Your body's not responding to that. And of course, there's hormones that are disrupted that are contributing to that. You're noticing you have a lot of cravings, especially sugar cravings. You have a mid-afternoon lull. So right in the middle of the afternoon, you're exhausted. You need something sweet. You're noticing that you're also worried all the time. It's also your thoughts. They're always of worry. They're always of things going wrong. They're always the worst case scenario. A lot of negative self-talk, a lot of self-deprecating conversations. And you're always sad or depressed or thinking about things in the past. And then emotionally also, you're feeling that you're feeling defeated, you're feeling not enough. And so all of these things happening, and your thoughts of course match your emotions. So your emotions are always of the worst case scenario, because and thoughts of the worst case scenario, because when you are in fight or flight, when you are in protection mode, what your mind is doing is actually trying to anticipate a worst case scenario. It does that for you. It's your gift. Why is that? Because that's the only way we can ensure survival. So if I can determine what the worst case scenario is, for example, my boss, I've got a new boss on Monday. Oh my God, what if the boss doesn't like me? Oh my God, what if I mess up? What if I don't show up in the same way? And so all of these worst case scenarios, and constantly projecting things into the future of the worst case scenarios, that is your greatest sign that you're in protection mode. You're constantly in fight or flight, because your thoughts are one way when you're in parasympathetic and another way when you're in sympathetic. Your emotions are one way in either case, and so is your behavior, and so is your action. So anytime you see addiction, anytime you see self-sabotaging behavior, and self-sabotaging behavior is basically when you're out of integrity, which means that you are not aligned with your thoughts and your emotions. So whatever I think and feel, my actions are exactly the opposite. That means you're out of integrity. It's not you're a good person or a bad person thing. It's really that what I wanted to do and what I ended up doing were two very different things. And I don't know why I do this. Why do I keep doing this? And it doesn't stop. And so if you're noticing you're stuck in this pattern and you're trying to accomplish something, and I know I just brought up weight loss and health, obviously, because we're talking about health today, but it also comes to business. If you're wanting to launch a project and you just can't hold yourself accountable, you're self-sabotaging. What about your relationships? Same thing around your relationships. Always a lot of stress, addicted to the exact same fight, addicted to the exact same conversations with your spouse that bring up those feelings, because cortisol is very, very addictive. And we actually love it. We actually love it. It actually fuels us. Why? Because when we have cortisol, which also comes with adrenaline, when we are in fight or flight, we actually feel alive. We actually feel certain. When we're angry, we feel certain. When we're under a lot of stress, I'm so busy, I'm so important. And so there's a lot of significance that comes with that. And so all of these things are signs that you are in protection mode. And especially when you're feeling like your body's working against you. To your point, Greg, I'm seeing my osteo, I'm still in constant pain. I'm not recovering. I've tried everything. I've taken the magnesium. I'm still not recovering, right? And so when you're noticing that you're doing the things, but your body's not cooperating, it's working against you, that is the greatest sign that you are in chronic protection mode, and you've built an amazing, fantastic adaptability to being in that state at all times that you don't even know where baseline is anymore, because you've just been in this place for so long.
No, absolutely. Like, and sometimes I find it difficult when you have clients that come see you for a problem that we know is much more than the physical solution that we can provide.
Right.
Right. I've heard it many times. We talk about this, where it's just like they just want to stretch or a treatment to be able to be like this is what I need. It's like, well, don't say it obviously in regards to this way, but it, like, you understand there's way more layers to this individual where, your intervention may not be the most impactful. You obviously do everything you possibly can to provide, everything you can from a healing process. And yeah, the one thing I talk about a lot in a lot of my presentations is one of my favorite quotes about stress was Dr. Hans Selye, who came up with the word stress. He always goes, "It's not stress that kills us; it's our reaction to it."
Yes.
Right? Like you and I can go through the same, say, relationship stress or financial stress, but how we deal with it and internalize can be different. One of us may be super motivated to be like, you know what? I take this as an opportunity to be able to create what I want to be able to stop. The other person can ruminate and magnify the problem and dwell on it, and just like it ruins my day every single day. And it's this big weight of cloud, rather than like it's almost like the shackles are off, where I'm able to attack a challenge I want to be able to do. The other people feels the weight of the moment and just wants to be able to, be alone and isolate. And so that's always a big piece of understanding the mental component of stress, not just the physical component, but that needs to be addressed, and hopefully open that conversation with the clients of so, okay, I kind of get it, and be able to walk down that line a little bit more and start to be, a little more exploratory, where if other practitioners can be involved, we can do that.
So good. Oh my God, I love that you say that. And I want to add one more layer because, we're talking about exercise and we're talking about dieting, we're talking about all these things, but those are also another layer of stress. And so and we don't realize that we're like, oh, exercise is so good for us. Like I have to exercise to be healthy, or
Yeah.
I have to eat this certain way to be healthy. I have to cut 500 calories a day to be healthy. Well, what you've done is actually added another layer of stress. So here we are already in chronic fight or flight, already in chronic protection mode. And now what we've done is now start exercise. I'm going to start high intensity interval training. I'm going to start lifting weights, which is like so incredibly stressful to the body. It still raises cortisol. It's another form of stress. And now you're adding more stress to the stress. And so I just want to pinpoint that out, because that is not the solution. The solution is first to bring your body into relaxation, into parasympathetic or safety mode, right? And then move from there.
Absolutely. Right. I do this too in some of the talks is I go through, okay, well, let me know what are good forms of stress.
Right.
Right. And so one of them is to the point of talking about exercise. Other people say, watching your sporting team, in a very kind of cool, that type of environment, bad forms of stress. And, they talk about, financial stress or poor diet and things like, and I'm like, absolutely. These things are these are good forms of stress and bad forms of stress. Like, I can also make a case that I can completely switch those opposite and to be just as correct. Right. And I kind of go, because it depends on the dose and response, right? Exercise is good, but you can't do it 18 hours a day.
Right. Right.
Right. It's about the accumulation of all these. And the one study that I bring up is a study that was done by the Department of Energy. They looked at nuclear shipyard workers, so people that were exposed to nuclear radiation on a daily basis during work. And they looked at people that 60,000 people were part of the study, and they looked at all cause mortality and morbidity. So they looked at people that any type of condition, sickness, illness that required hospitalization or death. They looked at all of those people for 30 years. They
Wow.
looked at these people. Huge study, a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of gigantic sample size. Obviously, statistical power is through the roof. And they looked at this. They looked at people that 30,000 people were not exposed to any radiation. About 10,000 people were exposed to low dose radiation, which is about one chest X-ray per year.
Wow.
And then the high dose radiation, which is three chest X-rays per year. What they found, the people that were the most exposed to radiation lived 3 years longer than the non-exposed group. Not only that, as they had across all board,
Wow.
lower chances and risk of any type of hematopoietic cancers, radiation sensitive cancers, and all cause mortality, morbidity. And the reason why is because, very similar to exercise, is that like you just can't exercise for 18 hours a day and think it's phenomenal. But if it's monitored, controlled, where it's like the right type of stress at the right time, and be able to build that stress and tolerance. The big thing with this radiation is that amount of radiation was exposed over 365 days. It was a small amount of stress that they were able to recover from. That's the key of this, is that obviously when we have too much exercise or too much stress or too much this, too much that, all the stuff that's accumulated, we get into the sympathetic response into that. And to me, it's very much, some things in certain doses can be beneficial right? But just a little bit too much of something is going to throw you off the edge and be in a sympathetic thing. And so we got to be able to make sure that, you know, we're adding stress, the right amount of stress at the right time, or not pushing you over that cliff and the edge. Is very similar to you. If someone's already stressed, it's like, well, what can we do to get them back? Right. We're not going to expose them to radiation or whatever, you know, because that's too much. That's already too stressed. But, you know, how do we kind of get them into that parasympathetic mode significantly a lot more to be able to recover from all these stresses? What can we do to help alleviate that from a physical standpoint, from a mental, emotional standpoint, all those areas?
Right. Oh, so good. So good. And I'm happy we're now going to get into that conversation, because people are listening like, okay, I know my problem. Now tell me the solution. How do I get into parasympathetic? How do I get into safety mode? So what is it that you do? I know, again, I would think we would take 4 more hours for you to describe what you would do, because you said you attack this on an emotional level, on a mental level, on a psychological level, and also on a spiritual level, on of course on the body level, physiological level. So what would you say is your approach, or how would we bring people into health?
Yeah, so it's a great question. In how the framework kind of starts, I mean, it's very, as you know, like we try to be able to put some systems in place and some rules in place in regards to things, but in real life, it's really hard to be able to do that. So there's obviously always exceptions to rules, but my framework has always been kind of around of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If people aren't familiar with that, it's visualized as a pyramid, but he never actually drew it as a pyramid. But it's these layers of blocks that kind of like, you know, build up and like, hey, what are the foundations, and work from there. The first one is our physiological needs, right? So that's, to me, is our physical health, our exercise, nutrition, and sleep. So you start to be able to look at those, and we're making sure we just cover the basics. Now, we don't necessarily be optimal in those things, but like let's making sure we have good sleep habits, sleep hygiene. We're kind of being conscious about our nutrition, you know, physical activity, and our physical health, which is a big part of that is going to be like blood work, right? Making sure that our biochemistry is all kind of, you know, working on some things from there and be able to kind of tinker with that. And the reason why I say this is kind of the foundation of things is that when it comes to other aspects of health and well-being, it takes a longer time to change, because it has to do with mindset and personality, and those things are more of a continuous basis. You know, finding about purpose in life and drive, and not dealing with stress. It's like it's on your mind constantly. You can't get away from it. It's always there. Where physical health may be a, you know, medication, hopefully not, but like exercise, which is 30 minutes, nutrition, which is maybe a couple hours, you know, sleep, which is, you know, everyone does, and you just need like the time difference to make behavior change is quite small and doable to break it into chunks, versus working on self-actualization, right? Or self-esteem and confidence, which is always going to be conscious, you know, subconsciously there to me to be able to deal with. So setting up, you know, physical being is phenomenal there. The second is very much what you alluded to, is safety.
Right.
Is to address safety.
Right. Yes.
That is super key, making sure that we are feeling safe in our home, safe in our environment, safe and around people around us, like working on those areas. Right. And so that's kind of the framework. Is to look at the Maslow's. I won't go to each in detail, but you look at the hierarchy of needs and start to look at that stuff. It's like, oh, okay, you start from the ground and work your way up from that. Now, depending on where the person inputs and where their values and goals are, we may change and shift that pyramid a little bit in regards to what's going on. But from a framework, I kind of use that as a starting point to see if that's just me being the physical type of practitioner. That's where I start. But it's a good framework for people to look at it, saying, okay, like I have some basis of this pyramid, and need to be able to work up all the way to the end, which is self-actualization, which is it's your agency. This is where you have purpose and your ability to take on the day and be the best you possibly can be. So that's the kind of my approach to look at how to do a best attack health and well-being from a systematically logical way.
Right. Oh, so good. So good. And I want to talk about the word safety, because this is a very widely misunderstood word. Like, of course I'm safe. Like, there's no direct threat. Nobody broke into my house. I feel safe. No, that's not what it means. Safety really is being at complete ease in your environment. And so the women that join my program, for example, Make Peace with Food, they grew up in environments where they didn't feel safe. So this could have been a sexual trauma. This would have been verbal abuse. This could have been emotional abuse. This could have gone on for years. Maybe even grew up in an environment that was not validating for you, meaning maybe you had a single mom that worked 3 jobs, and though she did her best, she wasn't present. Or maybe that also meant that sometimes she'd come home with 1 donut for 5 kids that you all had to share. You didn't feel safe because there wasn't that ability to have as much food as you wanted. There was always a lack. So anytime there was a scarcity or there's a lack of safety. And again, safety equals food. Like that's how the brain operates. Could have also been that you grew up in an environment where you moved a lot. Every few months you moved a lot and you never felt that you had a home. Or maybe your parents got divorced and you didn't feel safe during that time and you were going back and forth and not really feeling like you had somebody to help and support you. And so all of these things happen to us, whether that's in our childhood or adulthood. By the way, it could also happen all of a sudden as an adult, where suddenly that feeling of security was taken away from you. And that could also be a very stressful environment at work. You come in and again, you don't feel validated, or maybe you feel that you have a very bad relationship with your coworkers or your boss. Maybe you're in a current relationship right now where again, you don't feel validated. So anytime you're feeling that, that is removal of that safety. Safety is you being completely at ease in your environment. Whether that is a direct traumatic event, that could have been physical, that could have been sexual, that could have been emotional, that could have been verbal, that all of that takes away your safety. And so it's important to really understand what this word means, because a lot of us equate the word safe with really somebody jumping in out of nowhere and trying to attack me. And that since that's not my current situation, I should feel safe.
Yeah, no, it's the one thing I love about obviously talking to people that are in the industry is you start to learn stuff.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you with this. I've never been able to put it that way.
Mm.
That is an absolute great way to be able to get people to understand what safety actually means, and now we can understand how that relates to the nervous system and how that relates to our health and well-being. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. We should hang out more often because I'm learning from you. You're learning from me. Like, look
I
at
know.
this is going so great. I love this. That's what I'm saying. I get another osteo on here and we're gonna geek out. Like, I know
I
this
know.
conversation is gonna go that way. That's so good. And just coming back to what we were saying and what we were talking about health, I've always seen health as this beautiful balance between these three things. It's like the trilogy. And the trilogy is a balance between the relationship with your body, the relationship with others, and then the relationship with yourself. If
Yep.
you can balance those three things, then you obtain health. And health, by the way, to me is not a marker that is actually measured. It's really how you feel,
Hmm.
because there you could get results back from blood tests and everything looks normal, but you don't feel good. Like there's something off. You could have all the money in the world and travel everywhere, and yet your relationship is suffering. That doesn't make you feel healthy, right? You could have the best relationship, you could have the best family support and all of that. However, you have this constant not enoughness and you're feeling that there's this constant lack. So all of that can drive you towards dis-ease. And so when you understand that it's not just what's happening in my body, what's happening in my relationships, and what's happening, in my mindset in terms of how I'm seeing myself and how I'm viewing the perspective of the world that I have, if you understand that all of this can be balanced. And when we talk about the balance, we're specifically saying relationship with your body, not the current condition of your body. It's the relationship with your body. Because how do you speak to yourself? How do you harness self-love? How do you treat your body? All of these things are so incredibly important. And to me, when we're able to actually pinpoint that and start to separate the areas of our lives that need more attention, that's where we can start to move towards health, because health is very much related to how we feel. And it is this constant thing that is varied. It's constantly changing. And so you have to adapt to the ebbs and flows of the situations in your life to continue to be in the flow of your health.
Hmm. I couldn't put it better myself. No, yeah, no rebuttal. Completely agree.
So what is your definition of health?
Yeah, so I put obviously a little more that the scientific side. To me, it's it is a gigantic, it comes out as how you feel,
Yeah.
right? And to really understand all these areas from some more the try quantitative mind that I have, like the outcome is obviously that.
Mm.
Where I see health being is in the presence of something,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's again a lack of self-confidence, whether it's a physical challenge, whether it's traffic, whatever necessarily may be, that we're in presence of something, our ability to maintain a stable environment, not let it impact us, not let it impact our mental well-being. Very much as we said, this all the self-doubt comes in. The more that past traumas have a less of an impact of how our internal environment is, that to me is the picture of health.
So good. I love that. I love that. And I love that you threw in the word confidence too, because that is a very, very important component, especially when it comes to relationship with self, is that level of confidence. If I'm constantly not enough, if I don't feel like whatever I'm doing is good enough, I'm always beating myself up, I've got this constant negative self-talk, that is not confidence. That doesn't harness confidence. And to me, true confidence is not just that I feel good in my body, I feel secure as Sherry Shaban in what I'm doing. Actually, confidence is all of that in the presence of uncertainty.
Yep, exactly.
That is confidence. Is if I
Yep.
can have all that while things are going, I'm going to want to say hit the fan. I want to say the shit hits the fan. That's really the word. Okay. When I'm feeling that even in that situation, I'm confident, I'm grounded, I'm centered, I have faith, that's confidence. It's not when things are good and I got money in my account and my relationship is good and my job is good and it's a beautiful day, it's sunny outside and my kids are not, acting up and I got through the night, and that's not confidence. Confidence is really what can I do in the face of uncertainty to stay centered. If I can do
Mhm.
that, then that is confidence.
Love it.
This was a really great conversation. You're really amazing, and I've enjoyed every single moment, and I feel so honored and privileged to have spoken to you today. I hope to get you back on the podcast at some point. Would you be good with that?
Of course. No, this is again, having someone with very similar backgrounds of philosophies. It's great to be able to kind of, go down these rabbit holes. And like I said, you'll say some things that I'm going to take away with, and then I'll,
Yeah,
same with
of
you,
course.
and start to be able to think a little bit more deeply about, the impact that we have on our clients.
So good. So good. So I'm going to honor your time today because I'm a bit selfish with your time, and I wanted to actually keep talking. But is there anything else, Greg, that you wanted to share that maybe you didn't have a chance to just yet?
No, I think the biggest kind of takeaway would be the fact that, I think people have a significant amount of control over their health and well-being. Sometimes when they're diagnosed with a condition, they kind of feel a victim of of that condition. And it kind of ingrains the fact that it's out of my control now, where you have a lot of control, you have a lot of autonomy, you have a lot of agency over your health and well-being.
Mm.
And surrounding yourself with a great knowledgeable team of practitioners to help guide you through that as well, is a big piece of it. But obviously to be able to do the work and go forward, to making sure you're making the right decisions and putting the right foot forward, is a big thing. But your decisions that you do around your health and well-being is the biggest factor to understand your health span and longevity.
Amazing, amazing. So I love that so much, and I couldn't agree more. And I love that you put that in the hands of the person to give them more control. Because if we have control over our health, then that's where we can make a change. If I always feel like I have no control, I need someone else's help, that's where then we start to struggle. And so I love that you've added that. What value you've provided for us today, Greg. It's a really great conversation. So if someone wanted to connect with you, where could they go to do that?
Yeah. So if you're in Vancouver, Canada, which probably a lot of people aren't, we have a clinic downtown for the drain, that I'm trading at. Also, there's gregelliot.ca. That's kind of where I'm starting to just launch some free resources for people with ebooks around HRV and health and well-being and some other podcasts and things that I've been on. So you can definitely check me out there too.
All right, amazing. We'll definitely add that to the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, and keep doing what you do. I know this is a lot of work. It's a lot of grunt work. It's a lot of time away from family, friends, and things you could be doing, impacting. But I think this provides a significant amount of value to the general population. So please keep up with it. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Likewise, my friend. Thank you so much. Received.
Thank you.